Far Lost. Created by John Miro.
33. HHL-6 groaned around them, accelerating ahead towards the Betty McKenna. Ready klaxons sounded and then were cut off mid-screech. Rose Okoro looked over to Lou Montaigne, floating strapped in at her command station. Sure enough, she was the one who'd killed the Audible. Commander Montaigne saw Rose looking her way. "Just the bad loud noises from here on, all right, Nav?" she called out, calmly, with a little trill in her voice. Rose nodded, her hands automatically slapping through icons to silence future standard Audible alerts even before she managed to tear her eyes off the acting commander. She looks so alive, Rose thought. How did she stay so calm when I'm She paused for a second and looked down. Her fingers weren't shaking. They were dancing between dozens of open windows. Her mind was clear and sharp. And even though she was terrified, she'd locked that dangerous emotion away in a tickle trunk in the back of her mind. A small grin crept onto her face as she tapped an incoming signal live and listened as Commander Villanueva reported his status into her ear. She was cool as a cucumber, Rose was surprised as hell to recognize, and having a blast. "Holy shit, this'll work," Rose heard on the open channel between CNC and the Betty's captain and chief engineer. Heavy breathing filled the line, and then Engineer Gruber started laughing hoarsely, overloading the speaker in his helmet. She winced until the audio system dampened his volume. Rose stared at the diagrams on a screen above her head, a slaved feed from Beecham's terminal showing arrows marking trajectory as HHL-6 moved at hundreds of kilometers an hour toward the ancient human ship ahead. Other systems lit up on her screen, status updates from department heads, automatic reports from the flight computers as they prepared for the braking and turning maneuvers that lay ahead, as HHL-6, basically a collection of cylindrical fuel tanks, performed the aeronautical equivalent of threading a needle. Captain Travis came over the feed. "Confirmed, 6, he panted. "We've sprayed emergency sealant across the entire surface area of the cargo bays to make a hard seal in there, but Daisy confirms you can slot 2 midline tanks inside with less than a meter's clearance." "Like a virgin on prom night," Gruber roared again. Rose Okoro laughed aloud. She cast an apologetic look across CNC to her commander and the station where Dr. Beecham and his assistant Stan were working. Stan grinned back, tapping on the back of his boss's chair. Beecham didn't even notice. All of them were working in the zone. All it took was a near-death experience, or 3, she thought, swallowing a giggle. "Commander," she called out, "First, Officer Villanueva has gotten First Officer Yu to Doc Sanders. Medbay is up and running, and he's sedated you for now. He's stable." The commander nodded, tapping through her own series of windows. "Captain Travis, when this is over, we've got a lot of blanks to fill in. Remember that." "Yeah, a lot of history. We'll get you up to speed, Coffee!" Engineer Gruber roared over his captain. "Lady, have you got beans on board?" Commander Montaigne burst out laughing, just as another call beeped in Rose's headset. "We'll brew you a bulb, Gruber," Montaigne said as Rose processed the sounds in her other ear. In real time, she called out the report. "Pilot Nishioka's EVA has launched with his mech crew, Commander, en route to prep tanks 17 and 18 for docking." "We're heading back inside then, 6, Captain Travis panted on the open channel. "We'll be up to speed when you get here." "Yeah, don't want to be casualty of our planned fender bender," Gruber wheezed. "Don't mess it up, Montaigne. Once we're out of chem thrusters, we're coasting without you." Montaigne, cool as ever, lifted her chin and reassured everyone within the sound of her voice. "You did your part, Betty. My crew will do theirs." "Yeah, relax. ETA's a whole 28 minutes out," Beecham called out, sarcasm dripping from every word. He swore. Low, and under his breath, Rose noticed. Wow, he really was trying to rein in that potty mouth. Will wonders ever cease, she thought. "And Captain," Beecham grated out, "ask your potted computer to slow down its transmission rates. We're getting too many data errors trying to receive. We can't afford that right now. This kind of op usually gets weeks of planning and 1,000 computer sims, not a one-shot deal. Beecham, Montaigne called in a low, almost mocking tone. It was the right tack, Rose saw. The weirdo didn't explode like Rose would have guessed. He nodded and waved his hands toward the commander, part, yeah, I know, and part, sorry about that. How did she do that? Rose wondered. I will speak more slowly, came that calm, inhuman voice again. Rose wondered if it was joking with them. She had no clue. She was still trying to wrap her head around the idea of a plant that thought faster than all the computer cores on 6. With that thought came the memory of the other voices, the ones tumbling away on the tram Dina was chasing in her EVA craft. No, not going there, she said, tucking the whole idea of aliens into her mental tickle trunk. She tapped through all her screens again, remembering the calming lessons from driver training back in her teens. Check the left mirror, the dashboard, the rear view, then the right. Keep your eyes moving so you never miss anything. It helped her all her life, and it even helped her slam the trunk shut around the whole idea of aliens in the here and now. Internal sensors showed only a half a dozen depressurized containers en routes now. The crew released from Cellar 1 had been busy patching things up. And motivated, she guessed. There was no support out here to save their asses except their crewmates' own eyeballs. She exploded the view of the ship's trajectory on screen. In 20 minutes, the ship's complement would all rush back into the cellar in case the two ships' smash-up caused another leak. Or worse, Rose almost thought, then ran her eyes along the trail of open windows on her screen again. 10 and 2, Okoro, she intoned, remembering the driving tutor her father had paid to ensure his baby girl learned all the right lessons. And she had, she realized, as she tapped through navigation plots and comm traffic with ease in the midst of the greatest tragedy and adventure of her young life. Father would be proud, she thought. She veered the car of her mind away from the thing in her dreams in the moments after 6 arrived in this strange new place. The thing that had looked like her father, but warned her not to let the lights go out. So many wonders, Father, she thought. I wish I could share them with you. A vibration hummed from her console. She frowned and dug up a blinking window. LiDAR overlays showed a static world full of broken alien ships all around them. And motion. Below them lay an island of metal, still rising from being caught in HHL-6's explosive arrival. Rose stared at it again, thinking of satellite views of her father's island back home, a pretty thing of golden sand in blue-green water. This thing was just as beautiful, looking in places like a grown thing with curling lines and massive spans, and in other places looking engineered, like the ship that it was. Did it still contain the dust of the mines that had brought it here? Beecham had said none of the bones below them were less than 1,000 years old. The screen vibrated again, and Rose drew in her breath. 2 discrete motions on 2 separate axes? Rose felt that calm wave she was surfing begin to crumble. Idiotically, she raised her hand. She stammered and fell silent. The overlays updated themselves again. That brain-bendingly large mass of alloy and columns and waves was not just tumbling. It was course-correcting. It was moving, with intent. Commander, she said, but her throat was frozen. She grunted and shouted it out. Commander! Montaigne's head swiveled, her eyes alert, sensing the change in her nav officer. Report, she barked. Rose had to take a breath, but she got the words out. Bogey, inbound, Commander. It's that big one. It... The words were thready, just more than a whisper. It's following us.
Far Lost. Music by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Learn more at servingworlds.com.
Hi, John Miro here. This month, Far Lost is brought to you by Patreon backers like you. and executive producer Tom Phoenix. Patronage starts at 25 cents a cliffhanger or $1 a month. patreon.com. Thank you for your support.